Good evening, everyone. LordSeanConnery here, and I'm just going to go ahead and going over the overnight session from last night. Some of the levels that behaved quite well, with some decent entries on ES and CL, and then also talk about today's pretty much goat fuck session. Very tricky today, both on CL and ES. All right, so what we do is we have a chart of ES from Wednesday night into Thursday morning. These are the levels. The open came about, gave really no entry here at the over-under, just kind of blasted right through one of these levels. And so with such a distance from this level of 66.73 up to 67.10, I mean, we're talking about almost 40 points. That's 37 to be exact. I was stalking in the early evening, around 8 o'clock, a pullback into here, and nothing really came back directly to this level, but I was able to get an entry here. This, I can't really see it, looks like 6676.75. There was an entry here, got some risk off, and it became pretty late. I just let the trade work, woke up to see it hit 67.10. That was pretty fantastic. The CL opened, popped above its over-under, looked like it was going to hold it for higher, and it just kind of pissed on through it. So this level didn't have any sort of respect. It just kind of got ravaged through. So didn't really pay attention to that. This is around 10 o'clock at night Central. This came on in, really gave no entry, and I wasn't really interested in taking an oil trade. I didn't want to kind of sit through some of the crazy EU session stuff, but it was kind of nice. It did move from the edge of this zone to this zone, and did it pretty much again, tapped the zone. There was a double bottom, so a double TPO poor low at 63.24. Later, did not respect this region again, popped on up, and I think there might have been some news or some European shenanigans that actually took out the low, which is good because this was a 63.24. It auctioned twice in two different 30-minute periods, so 30-minute brackets. So that was likely going to get corrected. Doesn't have to be corrected in the same session. It could actually be left behind and corrected later. But something went on down where this just shit its bed and actually provided a very interesting pop. There was not an ability to get on this around 5 in the morning Central. I wasn't awake for this. Any of the European traders, they probably, might have seen something. But this thing went from, I think, in inflection 2 on the ETH levels all the way on up, just passing right on through up to inflection 1 resistance. That was pretty insane action, and it really shows, wow, like price being contained between two decent levels. I gotta hand it to those guys at Infinitus. They're pretty damn good. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at CL first. So, CL was a mess. Let me turn off my news. There we go. All right, these are the levels intraday for CL. Levels are printed out 15 minutes before the open. There was something to be taken here if you were fast enough. But really, we had an open, come in, kind of piss through this level. This level wasn't really respected that well, so it's pretty much moot for the time being. But there was a low created at 63.55. We passed through the open again, so this looked pretty messy. We had a higher low over here and a pass up to the open yet again to make a higher high by one tick. This pullback actually looked very interesting. This was an overall higher low against A's bracket in the first 30-minute period. The low was 63.55, and I believe the high was 63.89. In B bracket, the high was 63.88, so it's one tick below. That makes it something called a poor high. There was a long here to go long, risking A's low. So my long was at 63.60, risk 55. I just threw the bid in there, 5 ticks of risk, actually got filled, which was kind of convenient. I had a bid there. If it didn't get filled, I would have dragged it to 60. 60 risk 55. 65 risk 55. That managed to actually break the IB high, cleaning up this poor high. Went into the over-under and also nailed the overnight high. And after taking out the overnight high, this thing kind of just pulled back and was looking like a pullback to the IB high for a continuation. There was some news here. There was some news regarding Trump and Putin about some stuff on oil, but it was not really good for the market. So this thing just kind of spilled, oil spilling, or gushing higher, spilling lower, no pun intended. After that, it just became a complete mess, breaking the IB low to send a day neutral again. We keep having these neutral days on oil. Insane. There was nothing really to be done here. Inflection 2, the most efficient price where usually the market will turn. It had an entry. It got nothing. It got, maybe 15 ticks before it came in and broke it. Really messy. There were some single prints that were open up to 63.55. There was some bottoming action. 63.19 was one of the the bracket lows, and there was a long here, 24 risk 19, the standard 5-tick play against a higher low in one of the post-European close brackets to see if you could get singles. It almost did. Came up to 63.52 before being foiled. Came right back down. Eventually took out the overnight low at 63.11, but then later closed back above. Overall, nasty action. There wasn't a lot of accurate plays on CL. I have to admit, after getting this long and making the overnight high, I was actually trying to go for inflection 1 and 2 upside to see if I could get some sort of pullback to the IB. I took this, I got stopped out, I entered again, got risk off, and then I just got fucked. So that really wasn't nice. There's some other trades that I was able to get some entries with risk off, and they just get stopped out. And that's the name of the game. You have to get your trade in as close as possible to where you feel you want to take risk. Get some risk off. If you could cover, the full risk of your remaining trade, that's great. Then you have a risk-free trade. Everybody has their own methods. I have mine. So anyways, that is CL. ES, this is post FOMC. There we go. All right. So this was the action last in that overnight that hit that 67.10 zone and actually went a little further, but this thing kind of just lost its asshole and came right back into the profile around here. This is actually pretty there's some pretty decent volume here, so it magneted back and it looked like it was just going to go ahead and balance. The full session profile after all this action tells a different picture. So here there was a pullback to the over-under with a decent response. And there was a long, didn't get really that great of a bid. I was bidding just a few points above like 61.25, 2 points, just could not get filled. This thing made a higher high by just 1 tick against this 66.92. This is the full session mid. And another pullback yet again. This action that passes through the open, back and forth, back and forth. It's a nice little open auction. Eventually it broke lower, didn't respect inflection 1, really didn't do much. When the price action just does not, pull in and kind of hold one of these inflections, you can kind of write them off unless something else takes place. Since this thing was not holding at this inflection, I was kind of looking around to see if maybe a pullback to yesterday's full session VPOC at 66.61 which is also right near the close of the session, that could have given an opportunity. But no, actually, what this thing did is pull back a little deeper, and I forgot if there was some news or just some interesting price action, but it smashed right on through. Normally, if inflection 2 was going to be a possibility, this thing would have, ran through this area, pulled back, and had some trouble here at this region, which is technically the open swing low, like the low of 61 and a quarter. And it would have stopped and then went lower. It didn't. It just ripped right through, back through the open, and then actually pulled back to this inflection one. There was a breakout trade that I was able to take. I was actually fishing for a trade here with a pattern that I like to play. It never got the bid. I just put a straight out breakout. It's a stop entry. And then finally, this thing just started the sale. It was quite impressive. Hit inflection one for a target, formed the IB high at the very last minute, broke it, failed to take out the overnight high. It was close, but just no cigar. I think we ran into some stuck traders up here, and they decided to let go of their position because they were really far down. Later, this thing pulled back to these full session and RTH mid VWAP areas. There were some possibilities for a trade here because generally when the market pulls back to the mid, if it wants to go higher, this is a very popular area for some traders to take positions. It's a 50% retrace of the action from bottom to top. And it really didn't do much. It actually got contained with an inflection one and pulled in even lower. But this time, instead of the RTH mid VWAP and the full session VWAP, it actually pulled into the full session mid, which actually aligns with the open swing high right here. Another area that you could go ahead and, peek in some interest. There was a very particular reversal pattern that I like to see. This thing did create an opportunity to stock a trade. There was a trade that was able to come on in, get risk off, visited this entry, this area yet again, but it just could not break out to new highs. Later, just came back and balanced, just swished around, just fucked around. CL was definitely much more trickier than ES. I would say, both of them were probably pretty tricky, especially when it comes to the zones. The zones did not play ball in terms of containing price to the downside or the upside. There was definitely some movement beyond the zones, which can be tricky, but zones are not always perfect. And then also when news comes out, repricing, some levels are created on just the knowledge of what's out there right now. You can never foretell what somebody might say on the news. So anyways, that was the action today. Pretty frustrating on oil. And there's some times of frustration, but what are you going to do? That is the name of the game. All you can do is you take your good trades and you hope they work out. Well, not hope. You take your trades, you get risk off, and most of the time you take the fucking ostrich approach and just, you can just walk away, set out your targets and come back. Did they hit? Cool. Did they not? Fuck. Sometimes it actually pays to trade like a simpleton in this market rather than being too smart. My friend and I were having a discussion about this regarding one of our approaches to our weekly trade. Weekly trade, we nailed along and got a really good target, and we actually failed to enter in short. And I'm going to go ahead and discuss that tomorrow. We failed because there was some context to the market, using our big brains that was telling us, oil's going to move higher, but actually it didn't. And a short that we could have taken could have yielded 100 ticks of profit. Absolutely fucking nuts. But here we are sitting with our dicks in our hand, wondering why we didn't take that fucking trade. But probably another reason why is we get exhausted. It is exhausting actually watching the market. I think people who are robots probably do the best, but hey, we're all human. Anyways, I'm going to wrap this up. I hope you enjoy the video, and look out for tomorrow's video. Cannot wait to discuss the results of the weekly trade and how the approach goes. Take care, everyone. Have a good evening.